The apartment was on the third floor of a brick walk-up in Wicker Park, the kind of place where the radiator clanked like a drunk uncle and the hallway always smelled faintly of someone else's curry. Alex had answered the Craigslist ad because the rent was half what he could afford alone, and because the listing promised creative types welcome. He arrived with 2 duffels, a laptop bag and a cactus named Spike that had survived 3 moves. Jordan was already there, barefoot on the warped hardwood, balancing a pizza box on one palm while he tuned an old Telecaster with the other. His curls were damp from the shower. The white t-shirt he wore had a hole at the collar and clung to the small of his back. "You must be the designer," he said, flashing the kind of grin that made landlords forget late rent. "I'm the noise complaint waiting to happen." Alex laughed despite himself. He had expected a bro, maybe a finance guy with protein powder in the fridge. Instead, he got Jordan, 25, music school dropout, barista by day, open mic warrior by night. Straight, Alex assumed, because Jordan talked about girls the way other people talked about weather, constant, casual, impossible to avoid. They shook on the lease and on an unspoken rule, keep it chill. Alex needed quiet to finish freelance logos. Jordan needed space to write songs about heartbreak he hadn't technically experienced yet. The apartment became a 2-man ecosystem. Alex paid bills on time. Jordan paid in groceries and spontaneous guitar solos at 2 a.m. They left notes on the fridge. "Your turn for dishes, rockstar." And slowly, without meaning to, they learned each other's rhythms. Alex discovered Jordan sang in the shower, off-key but fearless. Jordan discovered Alex folded his socks into perfect squares and alphabetized the spice rack. They watched The Office reruns until the laugh track felt like their own inside joke. On Thursdays, Jordan cooked stir-fry that was 60% soy sauce and 100% edible. Alex cleaned up, humming whatever earworm Jordan had planted that week. It should have stayed like that. Parallel lines, polite intersection. But bodies are reckless cartographers. One October night, the radiator won the war against silence. Alex had spent 8 hours hunched over a tablet, neck stiff, eyes burning. He collapsed on the couch in an old hoodie, legs sprawled like a broken compass. Jordan wandered in from the kitchen, 2 beers dangling from his fingers. "You look like a sad origami crane," he said, handing over a bottle. "Client wants a rebrand for a vegan butcher." "I give up," Jordan snorted. "Lie down. I'll fix the crane." Alex started to protest. "I'm fine, really," but Jordan was already kneeling on the rug, palms warm through the cotton. His thumbs found the knot between Alex's shoulder blades and pressed. A sound escaped Alex, half groan, half surrender. "Jesus, when's the last time you saw a chiropractor?" "Never. I'm cheap and stubborn." Jordan's laugh vibrated against Alex's spine. The room smelled like hops, and the cedar candle, Jordan insisted, made the place less sad. Minutes slipped by, measured in the slow circles of Jordan's hands. Alex's pulse slowed, then sped up for reasons that had nothing to do with muscle tension. "Better?" Jordan asked, voice low. "Yeah." The word came out rough. Jordan didn't stop. His fingers traced lower, following the ridge of Alex's spine, pausing at the small of his back. The air thickened, charged like the moment before a power outage. Alex felt the shift, Jordan's breath catching, the subtle lean of his body. "Hey," Jordan said, barely audible. "Tell me if I'm—" "You're not." Silence stretched, elastic. Then Jordan's hand slid to Alex's waist, thumb brushing the strip of skin where the hoodie had ridden up. Alex turned his head, cheek against the couch cushion, and met Jordan's eyes. They were darker than usual, pupils blown wide. "I don't know what I'm doing," Jordan whispered. "Me neither." Jordan's forehead dropped to Alex's shoulder blade. A confession and a question. Alex reached back, fingers threading through Jordan's curls. The guitar in the corner gleamed under the lamp, strings still humming from earlier. Outside, a siren wailed and faded. Inside, 2 heartbeats tried to sync. Morning arrived in slanted gold. Alex woke to the smell of coffee and the soft clatter of Jordan attempting pancakes. He padded into the kitchen, hair sticking up like a dandelion. Jordan stood at the stove in boxer briefs and one of Alex's hoodies, world's okayest designer, flipping a pancake that looked suspiciously like the state of Florida. "Morning." "Crane," Jordan said without turning. "Morning, chef." They moved around each other like dancers who'd forgotten the choreography but remembered the music. Jordan slid a plate across the counter. Alex poured coffee. Their fingers brushed. Neither flinched. "So," Jordan said, leaning against the fridge, "last night..." Alex's stomach flipped harder than the pancake. "Yeah, I wasn't that drunk." Jordan's mouth quirked. "Just curious." "Curious?" Alex repeated, tasting the word. Jordan shrugged, but his ears went pink. "You're easy to be around. And I kept thinking about how your shoulders felt under my hands. And then I thought about other things." He scratched the back of his neck. "I'm not great at this." Alex set his mug down. "You don't have to be." The next weeks were a master class in almost. Jordan's knee pressed against Alex's under the coffee table. Alex's hand lingered when passing the remote. They cooked dinner shoulder to shoulder, hips bumping, pretending the contact was accidental. Jordan wrote a new song, slow, minor chords, lyrics about bridges burning in slow motion. He played it once, eyes on Alex the whole time, then changed the subject. One Saturday, the radiator finally died. Chicago November seeped through the windows like an unwanted guest. They bundled in blankets, ordered Thai, and argued over whether Die Hard was a Christmas movie. Jordan lost on purpose. Alex pretended not to notice. Halfway through the credits, Jordan's head found its way to Alex's thigh. His curls tickled Alex's wrist. The TV flickered blue across Jordan's cheekbones. Alex's fingers moved without permission, combing through the strands, slow and reverent. Jordan's eyes fluttered shut. "You're gonna make me fall asleep," he mumbled. "That's the plan." Jordan's hand came up, closing over Alex's, pinning it against his chest. Under the blanket, their legs tangled. The movie ended. Neither moved to restart it. Later, in the dark, Jordan's voice floated up. "I've never done this with a guy." "I know. Doesn't feel weird." Alex swallowed. "Good weird or bad weird?" Jordan turned, nose brushing Alex's collarbone. "The kind where I want to stay here until the radiator resurrects itself." They kissed like people learning a new language, hesitant, then fluent. Jordan tasted like pad thai and possibility. Alex's hands mapped the slope of Jordan's back, the dip above his hip bone, the places he'd memorized through t-shirts and accidental grazes. When they pulled apart, foreheads touching, Jordan laughed softly. "Your heart's going nuts. So's yours." December arrived with snow and excuses. Jordan's gig at a dive bar on Milwaukee Avenue. Alex went, stood in the back, watched Jordan dedicate a song to "Someone Who Makes the Cold Less Shitty." The crowd whooped. Alex's face burned. Afterward, in the alley behind the bar, Jordan kissed him against bricks still warm from the day's sun. Snowflakes melted on their lashes. Back home, they left wet footprints across the floor. Jordan's fingers fumbled with Alex's belt buckle, breath hitching. "Tell me if I suck at this." "You won't." They didn't make it to a bed. The couch became continent enough. Clothes peeled away like old wallpaper, revealing skin Alex had only imagined in the dark. Jordan's mouth was curious, generous. Alex's hands shook with the effort of going slow. When Jordan whispered "please" against his throat, Alex nearly came undone. After, they lay tangled under the blanket that smelled like both of them now. Jordan traced idle patterns on Alex's chest. "So this is what all the songs are about." Alex laughed, the sound rusty. "Took you long enough." Jordan propped himself on an elbow. "I'm still figuring it out, but I know I don't want to stop." The radiator clanked back to life sometime before dawn, a metallic applause. Spring came in fits and starts. Jordan's band got a residency at a coffee shop. Alex landed a steady client who paid in actual money. They bought a real couch, gray, second-hand, big enough for 2 bodies and a cactus. Spike the cactus got a friend named Thorn. Some nights Jordan still talked about girls, old habits, reflex. Alex listened, no longer bracing for impact. Other nights Jordan played new songs with lyrics that made Alex's chest ache. I drew a map to your ribs, found north in your pulse. One Sunday in May, they woke to sunlight striping the bed. Jordan's head was on Alex's stomach, one arm flung across like a seatbelt. Alex traced the freckles on Jordan's shoulder, counting them like stars. Hey, Jordan mumbled, voice gravelly. Marry me. Alex's hand stilled. You're half asleep. Am not. Jordan lifted his head, eyes clear. I mean, not today, but someday. When we can afford rings that aren't from a vending machine. Alex's laugh cracked in the middle. You're ridiculous. You love it. Yeah, Alex said, pulling him up for a kiss that tasted like coffee and forever. I do. Outside, Chicago hummed, sirens, L-trains, someone yelling about parking. Inside, two boys who'd started as strangers learned the difference between sharing space and sharing a life. The radiator clanked its approval. Spike and Thorne basked in the window, and on the new couch, a guitar leaned against the wall, strings waiting for the next song about bridges that didn't burn but bent, just enough to let two people cross. The apartment smelled faintly of cedar and old books, the kind of scent that clung to the walls of the narrow Brooklyn brownstone where Alex and I had been roommates for 6 months. He was the photographer, always chasing light through his lens, his dark hair perpetually tousled from running hands through it in frustration or inspiration. I was the writer, hunched over my laptop in the corner of the living room we'd turned into a shared workspace, my glasses slipping down my nose as I chased deadlines. We were opposites in rhythm, him loud and kinetic, me quiet and deliberate, but somehow the space between us had always felt balanced. Until it wasn't, it started with the small things. The way he'd linger in the kitchen in the mornings, shirtless, pouring coffee while I pretended to read the back of the cereal box. The way his laugh would catch when I made some dry remark about his chaotic schedule. I told myself it was nothing. Alex was straight. He'd had girlfriends, talked about them with the easy confidence of someone who knew exactly where he fit in the world. I, on the other hand, had known since I was 16 that I didn't fit anywhere neatly. I kept my feelings locked behind careful smiles and neutral conversations. But then there was the night of the blackout. The power went out during a late summer storm, the kind that rattled the fire escape and turned the city into a flickering candle. We'd been watching some old movie, half paying attention, when the screen went black. Alex groaned, tossing the remote onto the couch. Great! No Wi-Fi, no lights, no escape. I laughed, fumbling for the candles in the drawer. When I lit the first one, the flame danced across his face, catching the sharp line of his jaw, the way his eyes reflected the gold. He was closer than I expected, his knee brushing mine. You okay? He asked, voice low. I nodded, throat tight. Fine. We played cards by candlelight, the storm howling outside. He won, as always, smirking as he laid down his last card. You're too predictable, Jamie. I rolled my eyes, but my pulse stuttered when his fingers brushed mine as he gathered the deck. It was nothing. It had to be nothing. The next morning, he asked for a favor. My neck's killing me, he said, rolling his shoulders as he stood in the doorway of my room. Too many hours hunched over edits. You mind? I hesitated, then nodded. He sat on the edge of my bed, facing away, and I placed my hands on his shoulders. His skin was warm, the muscles tense beneath my palms. I worked slowly, carefully, feeling him relax inch by inch. God, that's good, he murmured, head tipping forward. My hand stilled for a moment, then kept moving. When I finished, he turned, catching my eye. Thanks, he said, voice softer than usual. Then he was gone, leaving me staring at the empty space where he'd been. The moments piled up like unread messages. The way he'd lean over my shoulder to read what I was writing, his breath warm against my ear. The night he came home late, smelling of bourbon and city air, and collapsed onto the couch beside me, his head dropping onto my shoulder like it belonged there. Rough night, he mumbled. I didn't move. Neither did he. The shift came on a Tuesday in October. I was sketching in my notebook, Nothing serious, just idle lines, when he knocked on my door frame. "Can't sleep," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Mind helping again?" My heart thudded, but I nodded. We sat on my bed, the room lit only by the streetlight filtering through the blinds. His shoulders were tight, his breathing shallow. I worked in silence, my hands moving over the knots in his back. Then he leaned back just slightly, his weight settling against me. My arms steadied him without thinking. "Don't stop," he said so quietly I almost missed it. I froze. He turned his head, our eyes meeting in the half-dark. His expression was raw, unguarded, like he was seeing me for the first time. Then he stood, abrupt and unsteady. "Thanks," he muttered and left. The door clicked shut behind him, but the air in the room felt different, charged. The days after were a tightrope. He didn't avoid me, but he was careful. His jokes were lighter, his touches fleeting. When we passed in the hallway, he'd step aside too quickly. But the silence between us crackled. I replayed every moment, his weight against me, the way his voice had softened. I was drowning in maybe, then came the night of the rain. It was relentless, pounding against the windows like it wanted in. I was curled on the couch with a book when Alex burst through the door, soaked to the bone. "Forgotten umbrella," he said, grinning despite himself. He peeled off his jacket, his shirt clinging to his chest, water dripping from his hair. I looked away, muttering something about him drying off. He returned with a towel, dropping onto the couch beside me, close enough that our thighs touched. "What's that?" he asked, nodding at my book. I showed him. He snorted. "Of course. Something pretentious." I shoved his shoulder and he laughed, the sound warm and unguarded. The rain filled the silence for a while. Then his voice came softer. "Can I ask you something?" I nodded. "Ever wanted someone you weren't supposed to?" My breath caught. "What do you mean?" He stared at his hands. "Like, you think you know yourself. Then someone comes along and flips everything." I swallowed. "Yeah," I said. "I know that feeling." He looked up, eyes searching mine. "What do you do?" "You stop lying to yourself," I said. "At least to start." He didn't move for a long time. The rain was the only sound. Then his hand found mine, fingers curling around my own. "Jamie," he said, voice shaking. "I don't know what this is, but it's you. It's always you." My heart stopped. "I thought I had it all figured out," he went on. "But when you touch me, when you're just... here, it's different." "I can't shake it." I squeezed his hand. "You don't have to know everything," I said. "Just be honest." He leaned in, hesitant, and kissed me. It was clumsy, uncertain, his lips trembling against mine. I kissed him back, slow and steady, letting 884 him know it was safe. When we pulled apart, his eyes were wide, his breathing ragged. "I don't know what I'm doing," he said, laughing nervously.
"You don't have to," I whispered.
He rested his forehead against mine, and we stayed there, the storm outside mirroring the one inside. The weeks that followed were a fragile new world. We didn't name it, but it was there in the quiet moments. His hand brushing mine as he passed me a plate, the way he'd fall asleep on the couch with his head on my chest, his breathing soft against my skin. There were nights he'd play his guitar, eyes locked on mine, the music saying what he couldn't. But there were shadows, too. The way he'd tense when we were out, his hand pulling away if someone looked too long. The way he'd go quiet when his phone buzzed with a text from an old friend. I told myself it was fine. He was figuring it out. But the doubt crept in, slow and corrosive. Was I a phase? A secret he'd bury when the light got too bright? It came to a head on a Saturday night. His friends were over, the apartment loud with laughter and the smell of takeout. Alex was in his element, charming and effortless, telling stories that made everyone lean in. Then there was Lila, an old friend from his photography program, her hand resting on his arm as she laughed at something he said. He didn't move it. Something in me snapped. I slipped into my room, closing the door on the noise. He found me later, the apartment quiet again. "You okay?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. I didn't look at him. "Why do you do that?" I said, "Do what?" "Act like nothing's changed. Like I'm just your roommate." He stepped inside, closing the door. Jamie, You let her touch you, I said, voice breaking. In front of everyone. Like I don't exist. His face fell. It didn't mean anything. I don't know how to do this. Do what? I snapped. Be with me? Or admit it? He crossed the room, stopping in front of me. I'm terrified, he said, voice raw. I don't know who I am when I'm with you. But I know I don't want to lose this. Lose you. I looked at him, his eyes pleading. Then stop hiding, I said. He reached out, his hand cupping my cheek. I'm trying, he whispered. I'm here. He kissed me, desperate and deep, like he was drowning and I was air. I kissed him back, anger and relief tangling together. We didn't go to separate rooms that night. We lay tangled in my bed, his fingers tracing patterns on my arm. Do you think we were meant to find each other? He asked, voice soft in the dark. Every day, I said. The fear didn't vanish. There were still moments he pulled back, still glances that lingered too long on old habits. But there were more moments of him leaning in, of his hand finding mine in the dark, of his laugh filling the apartment like it belonged to both of us. We were a work in progress, messy and undefined, but real. And for the first time, I believed we might make it to the other side. The rain had started just as the last guest left the rooftop party, turning the string lights into blurred halos. Alex stood by the railing, pretending to watch the city, while his mind replayed the evening. The way Ethan had laughed too loudly at Mia's jokes. The way his hand had lingered on her waist when they posed for photos. The way he'd introduced Alex to everyone as my roommate, the architect. Nothing more. He'd known Ethan for 2 years, shared an apartment, late-night takeout, inside jokes about bad clients. He'd watched Ethan date women, charm them effortlessly, then come home and sprawl across Alex's bed at 2 a.m. to vent about how none of them got him. Alex had listened, heart quietly fracturing because he did get him. He got the way Ethan's left eyebrow twitched when he was nervous, the way he hummed old jazz when he sketched, the way he'd fall asleep mid-sentence on the couch with his head on Alex's shoulder like it was the most natural thing in the world. But tonight, when Mia had asked Ethan if he was seeing anyone, he'd grinned and said, "Nah, just keeping my options open." Alex had felt the words like a slap. He'd excused himself, mumbled something about a headache, and disappeared to the stairwell. Now, the rooftop door creaked open behind him. Footsteps, hesitant, then purposeful. Ethan's voice low. "You left your jacket." Alex didn't turn. "I'm fine," a pause. Then the soft rustle of fabric as Ethan draped the jacket over Alex's shoulders anyway. "You're not fine," Alex laughed, bitter. "You don't get to decide that." Ethan stepped closer, close enough that Alex could smell the faint cedar of his cologne mixed with rain. "I saw your face when I said that." About options, Alex finally looked at him. Ethan's hair was damp, curling at the ends. His eyes, usually so steady, were uncertain. "You think I don't know what this is?" Alex asked. "You flirt with me when we're alone. You text me at 3 a.m. to come home because you can't sleep without knowing I'm safe. But the second someone else is in the room, I'm just the guy who pays half the rent." Ethan flinched. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Ethan?" Alex's voice cracked. "Because I'm tired of being your ghost." Silence stretched between them, heavy as the rain. Then Ethan said, so quietly Alex almost missed it, "I'm terrified." Alex blinked. "Of what?" "Of ruining us. Of what it means if I—" He stopped, swallowed. "If I admit I want this." "Want you?" "My whole life I've known who I am. Straight. Simple. And then you—" His laugh was shaky. "You look at me like I'm something worth keeping, and I don't know how to be that person." "Not yet." Alex's anger softened, just a fraction. "You don't have to have it figured out. But you can't keep pretending I don't exist when it's convenient." Ethan nodded slowly. "I know. I'm sorry." They stood there, rain dripping from the awning above, until Ethan reached out, hesitant, and brushed a wet strand of hair from Alex's forehead. Can we go inside? Talk? Really talk? Alex wanted to say no, wanted to protect the last scraps of his dignity. But Ethan's hand was warm and his eyes were pleading, and Alex had never been able to deny him anything. Not really. Inside their apartment, the lights were low, the city a muted glow beyond the windows. Ethan poured them both whiskey, Alex's favorite, the one he only bought when he was stressed. They sat on the couch, knees almost touching. I don't know how to do this, Ethan admitted. I've never, with guys, I mean. It's always been easy, obvious, but with you, he gestured vaguely. It's like I've been speaking a language I didn't know I knew. Alex took a sip, the burn grounding him. So what do you want? Ethan looked at him, really looked. I want you, but I'm scared I'll mess it up. That I'll hurt you worse than I already have. Alex set his glass down. Then don't hide. Start small. Let me in even when it's messy, Ethan nodded. And then slowly he reached for Alex's hand. His fingers trembled, but he didn't pull away. The next few weeks were tentative. Ethan didn't flinch when their shoulders brushed in the hallway. He let his hand rest on Alex's lower back when they navigated a crowded bar. At a client dinner, he introduced Alex as my partner in crime and in life, and Alex nearly dropped his fork. But there were still moments. A coworker asking Ethan about his type, and Ethan hesitating just a second too long. Alex pretending not to notice, but the ache lingered. Then came the night that almost broke them. They'd gone to a gallery opening, Ethan's firm, Alex's design. The room was packed with pretentious artists and champagne flutes. Ethan was in his element, charming everyone, until a woman Alex recognized from Ethan's old photos, Lila, an ex, cornered them. Ethan. God, it's been forever. She kissed his cheek, lingered. Still single. Ethan's smile was tight. Yeah, just focusing on work. Alex felt the words like a punch. He excused himself, found the bathroom, splashed water on his face. When he came out, Ethan was waiting, eyes wide with panic. Alex, don't! Alex's voice was flat. Not here. They didn't speak on the cab ride home. In the apartment, Alex went straight to his room, shut the door. He sat on the edge of his bed, hands shaking. He'd known this was coming. Known Ethan wasn't ready. But knowing didn't make it hurt less. A soft knock. Alex, please, he didn't answer. The door opened anyway. Ethan stood there looking wrecked. I panicked. I saw Lila and all I could think was, God, I used to want her approval. And then you were standing there and I froze. Alex looked up. I can't keep doing this, Ethan. I can't be your secret until you decide I'm worth the risk. Ethan crossed the room in 3 strides, knelt in front of him. You're not. You're not a secret. His voice broke. You're the best thing in my life. And I'm an idiot for making you feel otherwise. Alex searched his face. Then prove it. Ethan took a shaky breath. I will. Starting now. He stood, pulled Alex up with him. And then, in the dim light of the bedroom, he kissed him. Not tentative, not stolen, but deliberate. A promise. The next morning, Ethan made coffee while Alex sketched at the counter. When the doorbell rang, delivery for a client, Ethan answered it shirtless, hair a mess, and didn't move away when the guy's eyes flicked to Alex in the background. My boyfriend's the genius behind the design, he said casually, signing for the package. Alex's pencil stilled. Boyfriend. Later on the fire escape, city buzzing below, Ethan lit a cigarette, something he only did when he was nervous. I told my sister, he said. About us. Alex's heart stuttered. And? She cried. Happy tears. Said she always knew I was too pretty to be straight. He laughed, shaky. Then she asked if you were the one who finally fixed my commitment issues. Alex smiled, small. What did you say? That you're the one who makes me want to be fixed. They sat in silence, shoulders touching. Ethan stubbed out the cigarette, turned to him. I don't know what this looks like tomorrow, or next year, but I know I want it with you, out loud. No more hiding, Alex leaned into him. Good, because I'm done being quiet. Months later, the apartment was different. Ethan's sketches now included Alex's handwriting in the margins, notes, doodles, inside jokes. They cooked together, argued over paint swatches, fell asleep tangled on the couch during movie marathons. Ethan's hand found Alex's in crowds without hesitation. At a friend's wedding, he slow danced with Alex in front of everyone, whispering, "This is us now," like it was the simplest truth in the world. One night, rain tapping the windows again, they lay in bed, city lights striping the ceiling. Ethan traced lazy patterns on Alex's chest. "Remember the rooftop?" he asked. "How could I forget?" Ethan smiled against his skin. "I was so scared I'd lose you." "You almost did, but I didn't." He pressed a kiss to Alex's collarbone. "And I won't." Alex turned, met his eyes. "Promise?" Ethan's answer was a kiss, slow, certain, unbreakable. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, two hearts finally beat in the same rhythm, no longer pretending.